And welcome everyone to the Pearl District Virtual First Thursday for May 2020. We're so excited to have you all here and to get to showcase some wonderful artwork. I'm glad to have partnered with the Urban Art Network and these wonderful artists to just have a great time and kind of enjoy First Thursday even in our crazy world that we're living in right now. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Brenda Dunn, and got moved around there a little bit, but we're going to turn it over to Brenda to give us a little bit of an introduction, and then we're going to get going. Brenda.
All right. Yeah. So hi, everybody. My name is Brenda, and I've been a volunteer with Urban Art Network for 15 years. Urban Art Network is a local nonprofit. They're volunteer ran 100% and has been operating the street gallery in the Pearl District for 20 years. Their goal is to create venues for self-representing artists and artists starting out, cheap venues to show their work and represent themselves. And I'm really proud that I've been able to work with them for so long. I'm an illustrator, I'm a printmaker. I feel like I'm an advocate for artists. I try to be. I'm just really happy to be here. I'm happy to be able to introduce all these artists, and I'm going to be introducing artists in order. So we're going to start off with Ursula Barton, and after each artist makes their presentation, we'll give a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, we can definitely do a little Q&A. So after saying that, we're going to start with Ursula. And Ursula is an Oregon native. Let me find my notes. She's a painter and muralist. A lot of people in Portland have seen her work. She specializes in cityscapes, bridges, like just gorgeous landscapes of things throughout the Pacific Northwest. She also owns Jailbreak Studios. It's a female-ran creative workspace and gallery. And I'm gonna turn it over to Ursula now.
All right. I can't quite see myself, but I'll just let's see, is there a way? Okay, there we go. Hi, I've really enjoyed working with you, Brenda. It's been a pleasure, and I guess I wanted to share part of my process because I got started in 2012 when I spilled some really expensive ink onto some even more expensive watercolor paper. I had to figure out what to do with it. So I started that process with ink and then just kind of grew the exploration of how to work with different kinds of ink, like water-based India ink and acrylic-based FW and some speedball inks. So I did a demo video that I'd like to just narrate that shows kind of the beginning process of what I build on to create the cityscapes that I've built my career on. I'll give you a couple. So this is kind of the vibe of my work. It has kind of an inky, loose quality to it. And then I've worked with Brenda to create smaller prints and ready to hang work of that. So I'll show you some of the materials that I used in the video before I start it so you have a better visualization of the process. I use a lot of pen and ink, so I use these nibs. I use a lot of different shaped ones, but the big fat flat ones are definitely my favorite. And then I also use really big fat brushes to move the water-based ink around, and then watercolor brushes as well. And I have some spray bottles, a big one and a small one. And then the inks that I used in this video, an acrylic-based ink that's white. I really love FW and golden. And then Indian ink is the black ink you'll see. And then Dr. P.H. Martin's is the red ink. And then you'll get to see some FW acrylic-based gold ink. So I'll start with the video. to show you kind of the loose part of, let's see. Where is it? There we go. So I start out with an eyedropper, and I like to just squirt it as hard as I possibly can is how I start every single work, because there's kind of a way to let go of being afraid of the empty canvas by just letting the ink kind of make the first move and then reacting to it. And then once the ink's down, I'll use a larger squirt bottle to spread. Oh, is the connection lost? Is that working?
It's still working.
Oh, great. It's telling me it was lost. There we go. Sorry, this is my first Zoom situation.
You're doing great, girl.
All right, it's still moving?
Yeah.
All right. So then I use the spray bottle to spread the ink onto the page kind of randomly and let it react to the water. And then once I usually start with black India ink, and then I'll add the white, because the white starts to eat up the black ink and it does these kind of plumy cloud reactions to the India ink, which are really unpredictable. But I really enjoy how instead of being afraid of the permanence of black ink, I always know that white ink will be there to kind of make it more interesting if I've lost all of the value. And so I'll just keep adding water to spread the ink and create the mixture on the paper. And that's what you can see as the water just kind of pushes. And then when you go back into it with black on top of white, sometimes I never really know what's going to swallow what. Mm-hmm. And that's something I really enjoy about creating the underpaintings. And then I'll take the nib and actually drag it through the different inks to mix them again and let them interact a little bit more, because I think that the ink is always going to be more interesting than what I can bring to the table just from its own properties. It's so unpredictable and intriguing to me that I try to let the ink kind of take the center stage and react and create more of a dialogue instead of forcing it to do everything that I want to do. So then another technique is I'll put the water down first with a watercolor brush, and then I'll bring the eyedropper, and I use the big brush just to create bigger pools of water. And then I'll bring the eyedropper in, and that'll create a different effect as well. Where you touch down will be really, really dark, and then it'll just kind of plume into these interesting watery textures.
I love the different tones that you get versus just black ink, or when you add the white in, like the black looks like a hint of sepia. It's nice seeing the different variations.
Yeah, and I like, so what you saw the water come down, I took the really big fat brush and I dip it in water, and I just kind of let the water fall on top of the ink, and then that is what I try to aim for, where there are two separate pools that aren't touching and they're different colors. And so I'll connect it with the water drops so that they naturally blend instead of me forcing it. And then here I've brought in the FW metallic inks, which I am obsessed with. I can never have too much gold. And it's just a really rich gold that will not be swallowed. So you can see how opaque it is. How it just is completely gold on top of that black.
Yeah.
And again, I'll bring in some more water every time I want the colors to interact. I really don't want to use my hand as much as I want the water to create the mixture. But sometimes if there's a big puddle, I'll scoot it with a brush, but that's about as controlled as it gets. And then after that, I believe in this one.
Yeah, I love how opaque the gold is when you throw it in there. Like the lines are a lot stronger with the gold medium that you're using.
Yeah, I definitely love that gold too much. And then that I'm just dipping the brush in with the acrylic ink and splattering it with my fingers to let it again kind of create its own mixture on top of the white and the black and the gold. And that's pretty much all of the different techniques that I've been playing around with since 2012. And I'm still learning a lot from just the different types of ink that you can get your hands on, and then also diluting it with alcohol and water will create different reactions. But once this portion, I try to start with the highlights and the shadows of a landscape first, picturing where I'm going to put the detail. And so that's what this process creates, is the shadows and the detail, or the shadows and the highlights of the city. And then once that's dry, I go back into it with the pen and ink and do all the detail work on top of the ink spill. And that's when I get really obsessive and detail oriented and super controlling. So it's kind of going back and forth between like letting the ink take all the control and then I get the last word.
Yeah, it's a good blend. Like needing control and needing to let it all go.
Yeah, pretty much. And so that's the video that I created to just, let's see, stop the screen share. All right, that's the most Zoom experience I've ever had in my life. It's the new normal. So I'll show you another piece so you can see, you can kind of see the black and the white. Right in there is the shadows, and then I come back on top of it and do all of the detail work. And right now I'm working more with abstract subject matter for a commission for a really lovely couple in Northeast. But I'm still using the same concept where I'm letting the ink kind of mix on its own. And then I think you can tell more when I do the detail work there. What's that?
That looks like a fern.
Yeah, I have some ferns and then some, they wanted it to be inspired by the Pacific Northwest and also all the change we're seeing with all the cranes and the nature.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I had prepared for you all.
Okay, all right. If anybody's curious, when things open back up, is there anywhere that people can find any of your murals locally? Because you're an amazing muralist as well.
Yeah, I am going to start a mural for the Portland Trailblazers next week. So when the NBA is a thing again, you'll be able to see my work in the Moda Center, or around the Moda Center, for the office spaces. And let's see, I'm doing 2 murals for Rogue Brewery this summer. So once you can go back into a brewery, and Rogue Brewery is a block away from Jailbreak, where I am right now, my storefront, and I did the mural behind me. So you can always come and visit me here because it's also my studio space. And I represent over 35 local emerging artists from underrepresented communities in this space as well. So there's a lot to see, not just my stuff. And then let's see,
So how long has
my newest ones? What's that?
How long has Jailbreak been open now, showcasing work? Because I know it was just studios for a while, and then you transitioned to like a gallery, and we're getting rolling with all of your art openings on First Fridays and stuff. And I feel like, was it almost a year that you were going with that?
Well, it's taken on a lot of different incarnations. I started the gallery space in like 3 years ago, when it was also a female-run creative studio space. And it started out being jailhouse studios, because this old building was the police department in 1905. And so we turned the back room, which was the holding cell, into a dark room. When Catherine T. Jacobs, who's a phenomenal photographer, we had a female artist collective. So it was Catherine T. Jacobs, Agnes Hamilton, and Casey Kiesler. And slowly but surely, everyone's needs shifted and changed. And I was left with the building, and I just loved it so much. I wanted to continue something new and creative and keep it as a creative space. But I also wanted to provide a platform for emerging artists who maybe didn't have the same opportunities as a lot of artists, just in visibility in Portland. So I teamed up with Bethany Von Steuben in July. And that's when we really redid the whole space this past July, and expanded the gallery that had been here for 3 years. And then we had our grand opening as our expansion this past October. And then quickly coronavirus threw us a massive curveball, but but I'm hoping that we can open our doors once again, because we really had so much fun having First Friday parties for Southeast, and the community here is just so vibrant, and there's a lot of talent that we have the honor to represent.
Yeah, and I want to say to anyone watching, when things open up again, I think to me, the things that stand out the most about visiting Jailbreak is you see the leopard print behind Ursula on the wall, and that is not wallpaper. That is hand-painted textile design on the whole space. It's amazing.
Wow. So, and I have another really weird mural in the bathroom that you'll have to come see for yourself. Yeah. But we do have an online store now. We are adapting.
That's right. Yeah. And then anybody watching, you can check out Urban Art Network for the links to everybody presenting tonight. Thank you, Ursula, for your time. I think we're going to hand off to Julie really quick. She's going to do another quick hello. And then after that, we'll move on to Nicole.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ursula.
Great. Thank you so much, Ursula. That was absolutely lovely to see.
Wow, my pleasure.
Very fascinating to watch how you make that really interesting artwork. And I agree, the gold was beautiful. But I'm really excited to see your Blazers mural, because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, me too.
So just wanted to welcome everyone again. We've had several more people join us. So just kind of wanted to go over what we're doing tonight. For those of you who don't know me and don't see my name in the corner down there, my name is Julie Gustafson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Pearl District Business Association. And one of our favorite things every single month is First Thursday. And we've loved working with Urban Art Network over the last several months. And I was talking with Jennifer and then with Brenda, and we came up with this idea of having a virtual First Thursday, being able to come together and from our own homes, staying safe, still being able to celebrate art on this First Thursday. That's been 20 years of the street fair and over 30 years in galleries all throughout the district. So it's so important to us, and finding these new ways to highlight and showcase what's so great about Portland and the creative community we have here. So with that, just kind of wanted to go over what we're doing again for everybody before we move on to the next one. I'm watching the chat. If you have questions, I've muted everyone unless they're up speaking, so that the artists can get through what they're doing. This is new to them too, so we're being respectful of everyone's capabilities, time, etc. But if you have questions, you can either put them in the chat, or at the end, Brenda and I will open it up for you if you have questions and you want to unmute yourself and ask. And with that, so excited to be doing this and to be bringing this to all of you on this beautiful First Thursday, which is sunny. So, you know, go figure, the May 1st Thursday is always sunny, right?
Yep.
So Brenda, it's all yours.
Okay, all right. So everyone just joining, I'm going to introduce myself again. My name is Brenda Dunn. I'm a volunteer with Urban Art Network. It's a locally run art nonprofit. We produce a street fair in the Pearl, First Thursday Street Gallery. We're in our 20th year. And our artist next up is Nicole Mark. She's a Portland native. She's been making photos since she was 10 years old, and most of her work is inspired by her love of travel and photography. And Nicole has some stuff to show us, so I'm gonna pass you off to her.
Hi, thanks Brenda. Hey everybody who's joining in. I just want to say, Ursula, that was really cool to see some of your technique, so thanks for sharing that. We're sitting in my tiny house right now. I built this house with my dad about 5 years ago, and I live in this space. It's 160 square feet, but this is also currently my art studio and my office, so it's small, but I'm making it work. So yeah, thanks for joining me in here. A little bit about me. I am a film and digital photographer. And like Brenda said, I've been shooting with film since I was about 10. I didn't go to school for art or photography. I'm self-taught, but I've been shooting for a really long time. And I have a large body of work. I do a lot of landscapes, and I do cityscapes, and I also do 35mm film double exposures with playing with nature and with bodies and nudes and portraits. So I'll show you guys a little bit of that stuff in a minute. I wanted to show you the cameras that I shoot with when I shoot with film, because my work is, it's about 60% film. I do shoot some digital, but these are my babies. This is my my vintage Yashica Copal MXV, and this is a twin reflex camera. It has like this little square that you look down through, and it's just like, it's a really cool camera, and I feel like when I look down into it that I'm looking into like a magical little alt universe. So that's my favorite camera. And I also shoot 35mm film with this Canon, and this is what I do most of my double exposure work with, because it's easy to reload the film through a second time. Yeah, so I want to flip the camera around and talk to you about some of my pieces as I show them to you a little closer up. So bear with me while I flip this around. So I do art prints on a lot of different mediums, from these paper style prints with wood rails to canvas prints. I do custom orders for framed prints and puzzles, and I do all kinds of different mediums. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. This is a wild foxglove image that I created in the Olympic National Forest up on the Olympic Peninsula. And there's St. John's Bridge, which I grew up next to, so I really love this bridge. Here's some misty, mossy rocks. And you'll notice that a lot of my Pacific Northwest work is very misty. It is really misty here, but I also just really enjoy shooting when it's super rainy. I don't mind getting really wet. I'll wear a poncho and put my cameras under the poncho and just get soaked, but I get these amazing images out of that. So I really love hiking in the rain. I also love shooting at sunrise and sunset. Here's a print in a sleeve of the up on Mount Lemmon in Arizona. There's some saguaros there. And here's a cityscape too of the Broadway Bridge with Portland in the background and a bird, of course, because it's Portland. Yeah. And then my double exposure work is like my passion project right now, and I love it because it's an experiment for me. The way that I do this is I run the film through the camera once, shooting outdoors in nature. So I'll shoot like textures or, you know, landscapes or water. And then once that roll's done, I take it out and I reload it and shoot it again with a model in my tiny house. So I don't always know what I'm going to get, even if I take notes and kind of try to plan it out. It doesn't always turn out like how I might have thought. And I think most of my favorite images were surprises, like this one. This woman's arm is like forming with the branch, and I just love how it turned out, and it was a total surprise. Same for this one. This one is the Oregon coast. It's like a January day, and the water was really a great texture, and I shot a whole roll and then reloaded it and shot with a model in the tiny house. And those are 36 by 48 inch poster prints hung with rails. That's some of my favorite stuff, and it's a really fun way for me to display my work in galleries. It's an affordable way for me to print, and also to make the art available to people who might not have a large income. But I also do custom orders for frame prints. Here's a couple. Pardon the reflection of my tiny house in there, but this is Joshua Tree at sunrise. It's like 5 a.m. shot of Joshua Tree. I think I have another that image right here. Might be easier to see. And that was a trip a couple years ago that I just got so lucky with that sunrise was just so perfect. And this is in the Valley of Fire in Nevada. This is a 120 millimeter film image from a couple years ago. And then I have this trestle image, which is also 35 millimeter film. And here's a gesso block print of the Oregon coast at the Oswald West Cliffs. I really love cliffs. I'm kind of addicted to heights. So you'll see a lot of stuff that might look like it was shot with a drone, but I was just probably standing on a cliff. And then I have some canvas prints too. This is a misty, mossy tree, and that the smaller one there is Kolchak Lake from above. Yeah. And then let's see, I have this really big, here's my tiny house.
Cute. Tiny house, but full-size tub.
Yeah, that's my clawfoot tub.
Yeah.
You can see, there's my cat, she's sleeping underneath. This is a 3 by 4 foot poster print, and pardon, there's some light shining on it. That's just from my open window, but yeah, this is the Columbia River Gorge shot with 120 millimeter film, and I was kind of like wading out into the water. I really love shooting from in the water. That I just love that perspective.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love, this is one of my favorite pieces of yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I do those poster prints like just about any image that I have, I can print at that scale. Yeah, so I think that's most of what I have to show you today. I'm a Portland Saturday Market vendor, so I also have a lot of fun, smaller framed pieces that I sell online. And yeah, all my work is available online, but you can get in touch with me via email too if you have questions.
Yeah. I also wanted to note, just I think that you also provide a really service that's crucial to a lot of artists. You know, Nicole also does product photography and art photography.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love her pieces. I love how you just like capture things like it's like you would go on a hike and that's what you'd see. And I love how it shows that you just have to like make the journey to get to this beautiful photo. But just for anyone else, another cool thing she does is the product photography. which is
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention that. Thank you.
yeah. So many artists need photographers that
Yeah.
know what they're doing, and because you're also an artist, I think that you have, you know, a lot of expertise. So if anyone's watching, Nicole is amazing at that.
Thank you. Yeah, if you have really large paintings or large pieces or a mural and you need it photographed for, you know, web use or documentation, or you want to do reproductions of those large, smaller prints that you can sell online, I can help with that. I've been shooting for a long time, and lighting and things like that come pretty naturally to me. So yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you so
And
much. Nicole.
real quick, there's actually a couple of comments that were in the chat that I wanted to share out. I know with Nicole being on her phone, she can't read the comments. I just wanted to make sure you heard this. You're building up some fan base. who's on here, used to go to Mount Lemmon as a kid and was really excited about that shot. And also
cool.
commented that the model behind the ocean is so cool, very original.
Oh, thank you so much for reading those. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at the end, in chats, I'm just going to send a link to everybody in chats, and it'll also be available on our Facebook page. The links that everybody's online stores, websites, whatnot. Yeah. So I think next up is Alex Meyer, and Alex is fairly new to Portland. I believe they've been in Portland for about 1.5 years. He is a scenic and properties designer based in Portland. And for his personal art, he's an active painter and printmaker. So we're gonna see what Alex has for us next.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah,
Everyone can hear me okay?
yeah, sounds
Yeah.
good.
My name's Alex, and I am an artist. I'm a painter mainly. I work in oils and acrylics, and sometimes watercolor. But I also do some printmaking when I can, when I have the space. But I freelance full-time as a set designer and props designer in the theater. So needless to say, that is something that's kind of at a slow point right now, but I'm really happy to share this evening with you guys and to tell you a little bit about my world as an artist. So I'm gonna talk about my work and then save maybe a little bit of time for questions or comments if anybody has anything. So my interest in environments, I think is a relationship between my work as a designer and my work as a painter. I'm interested in my artistry, how they relate to established norms, and whether they be aesthetic or they're visual or physical norms or social. I'm interested in presenting a space through a piece of art to someone and having them sort of look at that space with fresh eyes, with a changed intent or perspective. So I'm also very interested in world building and narrative. I am not interested in presenting a work that sort of has an answer that someone says, oh, I get it, or this is something I understand, but I'm much more interested in narrative that is left unfinished and for the viewer as sort of an active participant to complete the work with their relations and associations with the space. So that's very interesting to me. I think that the best way to do this for me is to allow the viewer to explore this space and to allow them to sort of find and dig and discover. So my process is sort of two-part. I sort of build a space and then I fill a space. And that works, that really speaks to my work as a designer as well. But I'm interested in how individuals can relate to specific parts of a painting or a print or a specific form in an image. I'm allowed to do this as an artist because I can revisit an infinite number of spaces in an infinite number of ways. And that's something that I think is really powerful. And it allows for sort of a flexibility of your mind. And I hope that I can drive that energy through my process and allow the viewer to do something sort of similar when they look at a work. And part of what I do is I'll often force a perspective or change sort of a bird's eye view of a space. My spaces are often very universal or familiar. And I do this to allow somebody to approach a work, sort of recognizing it and being comfortable working through it themselves and establishing those associations to things. But immediately when they're presented with it, they understand that this is sort of a new perspective. They're looking at a space from in a way that they haven't really seen it before. So I think that this translates a lot to childhood and the way that we see the world in our youth. I think that as artists, we are most creative when we are sort of unintroduced to these norms. And I think that there is sort of a spark that can emerge in terms of interest in an object or a space as a child, as a kid, that we sort of grow out of. And a lot of my work, my artistic career has sort of worked towards getting back to that space. So there's a lot of looking at the world with sort of a childlike, fresh scope of things. I often have inspiration for a piece that comes from one or two parts of a space. For example, I did a painting of the library downtown based on a trip to the library. I thought that something that caught my eye was the pattern in the carpet. And I thought that that deserved to be worked through, to be painted and to be created into something new. So taking that spark, that hook, and developing it into a space and being able to fill it. I filled this with a lot of different sort of series of actions in hopes that people can explore and discover little nuggets. And what's interesting about doing something like this is I feel that people can find that they are relating to a specific part in different ways. Maybe they have a different memory of something or an association to it. Or maybe they're relating to different parts in similar ways. And I'm hoping that my work can spark conversation around that so that relationships can be sort of developed through viewing as an active member. So, and what I'm currently working most towards is the landscape as a sort of a fertile grounds for storytelling. I am a Pacific Northwest transplant. So the structure of the landscape is sort of new to me and it's very beautiful. But it also feels familiar because it calls back to a lot of places that I've traveled or that I've lived. And I think that the landscape in general is something very unique in that it connects us all, but it can also serve as sort of a relation to a person or a group of people on a really individual level. So that is a bit about my painting work.
And what's your medium that you use for your paintings?
I use oils.
Okay.
And I work sometimes in acrylic, but I have this lovely studio space to work freely in oils. You can see behind me is what I'm working on now. And it's a landscape that's sort of immersed in water, thinking about a river or a coastline. And I'm just beginning, but I am sort of working with that, the intent behind impulsive mark making, and sort of bleeding that through the whole process. And I'm looking forward to where that's going. So that's a bit about me. If anybody had any comments or questions about anything I had mentioned or haven't mentioned, you could type it in the chat or message me privately. That's what I have.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one of my favorite things, that jumped out to me right away with your work is your use of color. I love the palette that you choose. I love how soft it is. I also love your use of perspective and kind of like a skewed different sort of perspective as far as all of that goes.
Yeah.
The library, there's like different planes and angles and stuff, and a lot of different like stories going on in there. And I really love that. And I would encourage everybody to go to Alex's website. He also does printmaking, and I really loved your insect pieces as well.
Thank you.
So I would definitely recommend to anybody to go and check out some of the print work that Alex has done.
I can show, if we have a little bit of time, I can show a couple of more prints of mine.
Yeah, let's see some
Yeah.
prints. Yeah, and then we'll pass, yeah,
Let's see here. And this is all done when I don't currently have access to a printmaking studio. So if anybody in the art community is knows of leads on that, please, I'd love to explore. But also, I don't mean to make you dizzy or anything. I'm going through.
I know right offhand there's a nonprofit in the Southeast Industrial area called IPRC.
Okay.
And they offer a lot of, you can have a membership. It's pretty low price. They have, if you are a member, you have access to a lot of their printmaking, machines, goods, whatever.
Right.
And then I believe Ursula in Jailbreak has done some training, and I know they have some print materials as well. I'm not sure what the state is now, but that's a couple places right in Southeast.
Yeah. Well, this is done on this is a lithograph. And I think this is not an environment, but thinking about objects and how they associate with each other. I think that, visually there's a relationship with all of these insects. There's a story behind each of them because they're drawn off of a physical collection of mine. So again, there's a lot of relationships here that people can start to discover as they make their way, through. And a screen print of more insects. I'm interested in, I think that insects in general are an important part of my childhood. And they kind of serve as a way for us to see the world maybe a little more intimately than we have expected. The outdoors is very large, and taking a look at sort of the microcosms within that are exciting to me. So
that ladybug piece is gorgeous. It's like,
thank you.
Julie, does anyone have any questions for Alex?
Several comments. People are saying that they just absolutely love the work and wanting to know where your work is sold, and was very excited. They were all asking for you to show more. So
Yeah,
we're excited that you did.
Yeah. Well, you can get a hold of me on my website. It's posted, I think, a lot through the Urban Art Network and through this platform. And you can contact me directly through there via phone or email. So I appreciate it, everybody.
Again, we're going to be sharing out those links at the end, and you can also find them through the Urban Art Network's website.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. So next up, we have a maker, Brian Allen Dunn. We're not related. His company is called Closed Loop Woodworks, and Brian is a native Oregonian. He creates unique and functional home goods. They're all from salvaged, reclaimed, repurposed lumber and bamboo. And He makes a lot of really great stuff. I first met Brian at Portland Saturday Market when I was a vendor, and I'm excited to see what he has for us today.
I guess I'm up.
Yeah, you're up, Brian. What you got?
Hello, everybody that's out there, and excuse my nervousness because I'm definitely a little bit on the nervous side, so bear with me. Don't really know what to say, but I'm really glad everybody's joining us here on this platform tonight, and I hope you will share it with your friends. If it's shareable later, I think it shall be. I make all sorts of wooden products. I've been doing this for about 6 years now. I got into it as a remodeling carpenter when I saw a bunch of wood just getting thrown away or and into the landfill or getting chipped or burned. It really made me upset because I love being out in the forest where there's trees still growing. So I want to honor the fact that the wood that I use was initially used for something else, and I get the leftovers and I try to create original pieces out of that. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that collect your cribbage boards. Can you bring up closer so we can see, maybe, let's look at that Trailblazer. Is that a cribbage board?
Sure, yeah, I've got so the two styles of cribbage boards I make are either from salvage lumber or from bamboo. These guys are both from salvage hardwood flooring. I get it from a wholesaler who only sells to flooring contractors, and they do not buy anything less than a full bundle. So these bundles have been opened and they were just going to get wasted at one point. So I collect them and then join them up and then create cribbage boards out of them. I also have those salvage lumber boards available in the shape of my favorite state, obviously. And then can't exclude our northern neighbors. I've got Washington as well. I don't know if people can see those or not. I can bring them closer.
So Brian, can you tell us how you get that design in wood? Like, what does that process look like?
Well, at this juncture, I used to do it all by hand. I would drill every hole by hand, and then a couple of years ago, right before the holiday, I was running really low on cribbage boards, so I was feverishly drilling holes in the boards in my shop right before Saturday market days and whatnot, and it would just kill my arm, my forearm. So I found some CNC machine operators that are willing to create the cribbage tracks for me, which saves my arm and my shoulder a ton of work. Plus, all the holes are perfectly straight; they're all lined up, and there's no issues with any pegs that are askew or what have you. Then the other version I make are from our bamboo plywood. Here's a Chinook salmon that I make. I'll bring it a little bit closer. I don't know if people can see that or not. I'll back it back up now. I apologize. Oh, beautiful basketball hoop. And then all the bamboo versions that I make, I used to buy brand new virgin bamboo, and then a few years ago at the Portland Night Market, a local manufacturer of elevated desks came by and said they always have a ton of return desktops that they don't really know what to do with, and would I be interested in? So I immediately swooped up on that option. So all the cribbage boards that I make are from recycled desktops. I can see if I can find some of the holes and stuff in the back on any of these. So far I can't, just kind of a bummer. These guys can't all be perfect, but apparently they all are. Anyway, but they were all former desktops, and they are just going to get donated to the rebuilding center or whatnot, so I can create cribbage boards out of them. I don't trust the finish on them, so I can't use them for any food service or anything like that. But if you want any food service kind of boards or cutting boards or whatever, I make all sorts of really lovely end grain cutting boards, and these guys are all oriented with the grain vertically, so when you chop on them, they really are resistant to showing any kind of knife marks. They're also will keep your knife really sharp compared to a face grain board, because your knife is basically going in between the grain of the wood instead of into it. Like if you picture a bunch of grasses, like you have a bunch of grasses, if you put the grasses flat and then chop through them, you'll have no problem cutting through them. But if you hold the grasses in your hand and you chop into the top of them, they're just going to part to allow the knife to be there. And that's basically what's going on with an end grain cutting board, because all the grain of the wood is running vertically instead of flat. The boards are all unique. Every one I make is one of a kind. And I love exploring different patterns. They're just so much fun for me to take different boards and put them together. These are the ones I've showed you so far, obviously all kind of a traditional rectangular shape, but I also make them in the shape of, once again, my favorite state, which is, this is an Oregon end grain board. I have 3 different sizes of these, small, medium, and large. This is the medium, and it measures about 16 east and west, and about a little less than 12 inches north and south. Pretty good sized board. We're very lucky that, or I feel very lucky that I live in Oregon. It's a great shape for a cutting board, much better than say California or someplace like that. And you can see Oregon products all over. This is one of my small Oregon ones again. I'll bring it closer and show you guys some more detail on that.
Some process photos on your Instagram, don't you? I really like seeing the way that you press all the wood together.
Yeah. So I start by making like a regular like face grain or edge grain cutting board, and then after they're all plain down, I cross cut them all. And if you go to my Instagram page or my Facebook page, my business page, you'll see some recent videos of me doing that. And then they're all one piece. They all get cut, and then they all get turned upright and joined back together. Here, I can show you a quick example. We'll bring these to the Saturday market. So this would be kind of a traditional face grain cutting board. So I'll take one of those guys, and obviously it's only 3 pieces of it. And then after it's planed down, I chop them up to the same size, turn them all upright, and then glue them back together. Now the grain of the wood, instead of going horizontally, is now going vertically, which is once again much better for your knives, and they don't show wear and tear, yada yada. Like I say, everyone's original. If you do purchase one of my boards, you take care of it the way that I outline, I will definitely guarantee it for life. Pretty much they're all up on my Etsy shop right now. I love doing custom orders, and
Yeah.
Hey, so, I make furniture. I don't know if you can see. Can I get my camera operator to lift what up?
I see that end table there. Is that just
an Oregon shaped basketball hoop that I make out of solid hardwood flooring. I also make that out of bamboo. Apparently my camera operator, who is my wife, wants me to lift up this table as well. So I make tables also, and coffee tables. You can see some examples of my stuff on my website, or I'm sorry, in my Etsy shop and on my Instagram pages. The Stolen Cube, it's a really cool design. Which has storage in there, which I can't, it's all, never mind, I won't show you that. We'll get rid of those too. Sorry, dog. What else do I make?
Hold on. Brian, I want to meet your shop dog.
You want to meet my shop dog?
Yeah, let's see your dog.
A really big issue with his front paw right now, but I will show him.
I see your dog keeps poking out, saying hi.
Here is my shop dog. His name is Bruce, and he's a handsome son of a bitch. Yes, he's
gorgeous. And that's your first dog ever, isn't it?
What's that?
Isn't that the first dog that you've ever had?
He is my first dog that I've ever had. I've always been a cat person, and he is quite needy, and oh boy, does he give a lot of love too. So I'm really grateful to have him in my life. Yes, little wiggle back. Oh, and speaking of dogs, thanks. Nice intro, or segue, Brenda. I also make elevated feeders for dogs and cats. These come with the large bowls, which are 6-cup capacity, and then all the decks and the legs are waterproof. So if you get any water or food that sits on there, it'll just wash right off. It'll just wipe right off. Then I have a smaller version with their 3-cup capacity bowls. Once again, everything that I make, pretty much, except for the bamboo stuff, is one of a kind. I just can't guarantee I have the amount of the same kind of lumber that I can make the same things over and over again. Plus, as a creative person and an artist, I have no desire to keep on replicating the same stuff over and over again because I just lose interest.
Yeah. So when things open back up, can people find you at Saturday Market pretty much every weekend when we're back to somewhat normal?
when and if, I mean, fingers crossed, the latest news that I've heard is the earliest the city of Portland parks will let us open back up is June 13th.
For Portland
So-
Saturday Market.
What's that?
For the Portland Saturday Market.
Yeah, so that's like a month and change. So hopefully, you know, but in between now, if anybody wants anything, Portland Saturday Market, I'm just going to do a little plug here, is doing some Facebook Live sales presentations on Saturdays. I'm going to try to get involved in that one on this Saturday. You can check out other ones, other artists and whatnot. Certainly, you can go to their website and get links to all the available Portland Saturday Market vendors that are there, and links to their websites and their social media pages and what have you. I also sell it first Thursday, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be involved tonight. The Portland Night Market is something that once it gets going again, I'll be involved in. I have some of my stuff at Boysport, at Made in Oregon, Market of Choice, mainly my lower end items though. And I guess that's about it for now.
Well, thank you so much. Your little presentation looks great. Now you're all set up to be able to sell online.
Yeah, and also just as an FYI, if anybody does want anything from me, I love doing custom orders. Feel free to contact me directly. And until things open back up, if you're in the Portland or Vancouver metro area, I'm happy to give you a free delivery for anything you want, yada yada, or you can come pick it up anytime. I'm obviously around way more than I want to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and hope everybody is safe out there. And I love any kind of feedback anybody has for me, either directly or privately, because once again, I may look confident, but I'm shaking in my boots right now.
Well, we did have some comments that are they really love the cutting boards. Said that your dog is a very good boy, and also great products and very versatile. So some good comments out there, and I can tell you I'm a big fan. So very excited to get to see some of your process too.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And if anybody's out there and is interested in my work, I would love if you could follow me on my social media pages and share my stuff, because the more exposure I can get, the better.
Yeah, we'll make sure everybody has access to that. Thanks, Brian.
Yes, you guys have a great evening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So looks like we're down to our last artist. Last but not least, we have Marshall Stokes. And Marshall is actually a close personal friend of mine. He was in my wedding recently, but that's not why I chose him to be part of this. Marshall is originally from Massachusetts, and he's been in Portland since 2005. Let's see. And Julie, let's see if we can get Marshall in the picture here. Let's see.
Just has to talk.
There we go.
Right here.
Yeah, so Marshall's a structural engineer during the day, and he's an artist in his free time whenever he has. And I always say this wrong, but his process, I'm going to try to say it, Marshall, pyrography, wood burning. All of his visual art is created through wood burning, and he focuses a lot of his time doing really detailed work of mandalas and skulls and whatnot. And Marshall, let's see what you got.
Cool. Good. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so first, thanks for including me in this. I feel pretty honored to be a part of these artists, this group. It's very flattering or honoring, but anyways, let me show you a piece first. That this is where I am now. So it is wood burning, and this is a ram skull with a bunch of geometric patterns behind it, which is kind of what I'm doing these days. I started originally with this medium as a child. I received for a gift at Christmas time a wood burning kit that came with a few pieces of wood in it and a plug in the wall wood burner, kind of like a soldering iron, very very rudimentary and slow. When I got older and started getting into it more, I learned that there were more advanced tools to work in the medium. I have a unit that you plug a whole bunch of different pens into that will give you square shading. I don't know if you can see that very well there.
Mhm.
The line work tip there, there's a round shader, and it has a heat dial on it so that you can build up gradients and shading slowly, like the ram skull. So you'll see that a lot of the, I don't know how well the light is or how good the light is in here right now, but
That's a good angle, yeah.
okay. And this is also varnished, so it's very shiny, but you know, all of these black areas are burned with the square shader on a very high temperature. It doesn't look like it's coming through, but all of the lighter stuff here is stippled. And then we've got a lot of line work with these kind of natural forms over the top of everything. So I guess to go back to where I am right now with what I've been doing, it's an interplay of the rigid geometry and natural forms. And I went to school for architecture a long time ago, and then engineering fairly recently. And so it's a little bit of an influence from both of those things where I am right now, with more of the free flow forms and how they interact with the rigidity of engineering and math. But it's been, I think, kind of a good thing to mine. I have plenty of ideas about where I'm going with it. So, you know, I've done some studies, and this is another kind of shiny varnished one, very similar to the other one, but this is more of just a study on the shape.
So amazing.
Thank you. And so, you know, I've gotten into the kind of sacred geometry patterns. This, I think, is the flower of life is what that's called, but also some of the just 3D patterns and how to represent them with the, you know, with the wood burning. So I've got this crow skull one. This crow skull I actually found the crow skull up on an old building in Portland before they tore it down. I'll remember it later. It's the old Lotus building downtown, which isn't there anymore. But found the crow skull, figured I'd draw it and put it in to one of the pieces. So that's that one. And then kind of again, in the similar, more recent vein of work, human skull in a bunch of patterns. So I've been doing it, like I said, since I was 18 or 19 seriously. So I've gone through quite a few different phases of what I've been working on. I'm going to share my screen here and show you my old website. This is the old website I think you put a link into. Can you see that now?
There we go.
Okay, so you can see these cityscapes.
Mhm.
Okay, so these are, and this is, you know, pretty recently after architectural school. So this is kind of an architectural style of sketching on wood, but these are all scenes from Portland when I moved here in 2005. And I was looking through these as everybody else was presenting, trying to figure out what I was going to show. But these are really cool because this shows Portland at a different time. This is at the Whole Foods in the Pearl, looking out at the corner. So Whole Foods right back here. But there's also, this is the Fox Tower. This is the hole in the ground before the new building went up in there, or no, it's Director's Park. That's right there, right? So it's kind of a little
Detail in that one.
I like the fence in that one.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of a time capsule. These are some protests that were happening outside of the Plaid Pantry where I lived near the museum back then. So I don't know where my stuff went. Yeah, so I've gone through, you know, a few different phases over time, but like I said, I'm back into, or I'm into the geometry and the juxtaposition with the natural forms. Recently, I'm going to share a different screen with you here. You know, I went for a walk with this, the quarantine stuff happening, and took a bunch of pictures of all the flowers. Let's see, can you see that now? So this is, maybe I don't want to do that. What I wanted to show, I guess, is this thing actually. Okay, so can we see this? It looks pretty similar to the rest of them. This is going to have a bunch of cherry blossoms around in the back. I have a bunch of pictures of cherry blossoms, of magnolias that are all going to be done in negative space around the back of everything. But this is what an in-process piece looks like. So, you know, it's all drawn out. It's very measured, very rigid, and then I'll put in the kind of natural free-flowing forms in afterwards. And then, I spend probably half of the time drawing it, erasing it, getting rid of the construction lines, and then darkening in what is going to be there. And then the burning process begins after that. So, you know, the ideation at that point is done. And it's really just a meditation on burning and on image making at that point. So,
How
and
long
then
does the piece normally take you to make?
it depends, you know, on the size of it, but usually it's probably 40 to 60 hours on some of the smaller ones. And like the Ram one that was a good 3 weeks solid of work, I think, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me see. Maybe I can show you just, I've got this one. I'll show you the process through this one real quick. If I can actually get this to work. Okay, so that's that one. We showed you that at the beginning. At the very beginning of the piece, it's just starting to sketch out everything. And I'll stare at a piece of wood for a couple hours probably, thinking about the patterns and what goes where, and into the into the wood, and where the layers are and what's going to be there. And then when it's set, then I'll start laying out the work and the geometry.
And you're drafting this all yourself. None of it is put together with any sort of like design program.
Yeah, that's right. It's all just drafting tools, old drafting tools from the architecture days. There's a ruler right there in the background. Yeah, so that's it. Oh, this was a friend of mine and I rented a cabin down in California and did an art weekend a couple months ago when the world was still open, and we made a bunch of stuff and it was great. So that's what that's from. I think that's, I don't know, kind of all I have to say about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I sent a message to everybody watching, links to everybody's sites, all their things. I know the best way to find Marshall is on Instagram. He had a show up at a little brunch place in Northeast Portland right before everything got shut down. So I know when it opens back up, he'll have a show up there for about 2 months, and you can contact him if you want to see the place. It's called Little Griddle. I think he also has some print work there. But yeah, we have a pretty cool show waiting for when things open back up with Marshall's artwork.
It'll happen someday.
I know. Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, Marshall. Thanks for showing us everything.
Thank you.
And
Absolutely.
are you going to have prints of that Ram piece? I know that we talked about, are you going to do a limited edition run of that one?
Yeah, I want to. We were talking about how I'm going to get it scanned in and then print it out. And you mentioned maybe Nicole can help. So Nicole, maybe you want to help me take some pictures of some artwork.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Marshall. I think we're almost to the end of our little show. I had a couple things that I just wanted to touch on that Urban Art Network has been working on, and then I'll hand off to Julie to say goodnight to everybody. So let's see, can I pull up my notes, what we got going on here? So let's see. Did everybody get the notes, all the artist notes and everything? Everybody's contact info?
Yes, it got out there.
Okay, great. All right. Well, okay, so I just have a couple little announcements for Urban Art Network, and then we'll just finish up. So there's a couple new things that Urban Art Network has been working on. We've been working on kind of updating our social media and starting to showcase new artists. Like I said, we're all volunteer ran. Nobody is paid with Urban Art Network. So, you know, we've been running for 20 years and we've been providing something really great for artists for a long time. And now we're just kind of like moving forward with like branding and social media. And now during this time, we're really trying to find avenues to help support local artists, especially supporting the arts has always been very, very important. But right now, I know personally a lot of artists that are really struggling. So Urban Art Network has a couple different things going on to try to support artists. The first one is the Mission Gallery. We're going to be doing a really small online gallery every month. We have just a small collection of work, and 50% of the proceeds from any sale goes to 3 different charitable funds that we choose monthly. You can go to urbanartnetwork.org and find out all of that information. It's cool local artists. So if you find something you want, the money's going to go to the artist, and then the portion that Urban Art Network takes goes directly to something charitable. So I definitely encourage anybody to check that out. And then we have a weekly thing that we're doing. We started about 2 weeks ago, and it's individual artist funding. And we highlight a different artist every week. We're highlighting artists that have expressed an immediate need for funding. And we're just reaching out to anybody online to see, you know, any donation that anyone can make. Like some artists are struggling to care for their pets or get materials to be able to sell work online. So it's just something we're trying to raise funds for artists that goes directly 100% to all the artists. And then when things open back up, of course, there's the street gallery. So we've had 2 events canceled now, but hopefully as soon as everything opens back up, hopefully we can do some sort of like social distance street fair. People can bring their hand sanitizer and their masks and see these artists that have been pent up in their studios. All the starving artists in Portland. And the Pearl is so great. There's so many great places to eat and drink and just make a night of the whole thing. So hopefully we can just get back to that when it's safe for everybody. And I'd just like to finish by thanking all the artists for their time. I really appreciate all of your efforts. And thank you so much, Julie, for offering to do this for us. And that's it from me. So I'm going to sign off and say goodnight and see if Julie has anything last to say.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said at the top and early on, First Thursday is one of our favorite things in the Pearl. It's a great way to highlight and showcase the roots of the district and where we're going. Thank you so much to all of the artists who shared their work and their spaces. Thank you to Brenda for helping coordinate this with me, and definitely thank you to the Urban Art Network and to all of you for joining us tonight. I had a wonderful time, and we look forward to seeing you in person, but until then, doing more of these. So good night and have a wonderful evening.